Hi, this is Catalina Flore, founder of FitForTheTop. Thank you for joining me on this personal development journey. The interview today is actually soup for our soul. And why is that? Many years ago, when I was in banking, in international banking, I was getting promotion after promotion. I was also a busy mother of 3. And at some point in my career, even with my titles and with doing amazing stuff, I was feeling there was a part of me that was getting a stronger voice, that I need to be doing something else. I've learned from Elizabeth the notion of and instead of or. I can do this and I can do that because they are both parts of me. And to expand myself and to find my talents and put them to work. I'm attracted by greatness in people. And in a minute, that's what we are going to bring to you, the greatness in this amazing lady, at least part of it. Besides being a banker, a mother, a coach, she's also a writer. And moreover, Elizabeth is a self-taught artist and photographer. She has spent a year documenting the wake of Hurricane Katrina. Then, 1 year later, she shifted her focus to flowers, finding inspiration from the vibrant colors of exotic flowers and their reflection in water. Her most recent work, together with another American artist and photographer, is a series of portraits developed under the artist name E2. She exhibits in the Museum of the City of The Hague, and her work has been covered by Washington Post, Volkskrant, Trouw, Tableau, Modern Classic, Elegance, and various other publications. Her work is held in museums and private collections in the United States, Europe, and Asia, including the New Orleans Museum of Art, the Louisiana State Museum, and the Dutch Embassy in The Hague. And this, together with being a busy mother, loving mother, wife, and still working for a large international bank. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Catalina.
Thank you for joining us and letting the world see the amazing woman you are. How this resonates with you? Having this courage to live a life true to yourself?
Well, actually, I think that everybody is amazing and that we all have the opportunity to do many things in our life, but that often we put ourselves in a box or let others put us in a box, and we study to become a lawyer or a doctor, or we get an MBA and we think, okay, this is...
You have also an MBA, by the way, right?
I do. And in making choices between maybe going to art school or getting an MBA, I had, parents saying, I think that actually you're an entrepreneur, so an MBA could be better for you than just art school. Art school can teach you maybe craft, technique, but it may not help you commercially. And I could have found that limiting my options, but I chose not to. I chose to see that you can do both. So when I finished my MBA, I moved to the Netherlands and I had an art gallery. And then at a certain point I also started to write. As you mentioned, I like to write a lot. And it's these kinds of choices that led me to say, okay, I'm following my passion on the one hand and my rational side on the other, but I don't need to make a choice between them. In fact, at one point I was PA of a board member at a bank, and the more I had to use my mental energy, the more I felt like my gut was saying, and time for my creative process. And the series of flower reflections with the vibrant colors that you talked about, a lot of that was made even during a tumultuous time of a takeover of the bank. So what I think is important is to help people to see that duality is part of life, and you don't have to be, like you said, one or the other, that you can be both, and you can actually maybe be 3 things or 4 things. It's what energizes you. Do more of what you love to do. So I'm standing in front of the costume for a shoot that we will be doing in 2 days. Albrecht Dürer's self-portrait from 1496. You see this costume. Often we are using costumes from the Dutch National Theatre, but they didn't have this one, so Bert Newholm made the costume, and including the hat. And we brought this from Paris, and we had a portfolio review to be able to simulate the hair. And we will have Frederique Newholm, who works for the National Theatre and does for us all of the makeup and hair. She will be the model for being Albrecht Dürer.
So we live in a world full of stressors, and one thing that I would like to touch base on with you is we both work for a very large financial conglomerate years ago, and this was the subject of the largest hostile takeover.
Indeed.
Right? So there was a lot of drama because it was an amazing organization and great people were working for it. And somehow in this process you use your art. You've started to express, I don't know what, but I want you to tell us. You use art as something.
Well, I used it in a way to heal myself, because when you're in the middle of something that is out of your control, that's very stressful, you don't know where you're going to end up, or you're going to have a job or not, and just being in the midst of all that anxiety. There were times that I was actually sitting in what they called the war room. How do you keep your feet on the ground and not feel burned? Well, I really made a lot of time for art, and sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night, maybe at 5, I couldn't sleep anymore, and so I thought, okay, this is an invitation for me to work on some of my art. And so I spent a lot of time down in the studio cutting things out of paper, cutting things out of the newspaper. I have an archive, which could rival a big library about the takeover, and that's now gone into the financial crisis and other things that I like to archive. And it was very healing to work with that and feel like I'm still the master of my own destiny, I suppose, is what it was all about. And this process started back in 2005 when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, where I'm from, that I started saving these newspaper articles and doing something with them, putting them in art pieces. And I actually came upon photography, because that was not my medium before Katrina, as a way to give myself distance from what was happening there and not feel so engulfed in all the emotion and all the drama, but to be kind of an observer of it. And that process was healing. And whenever I feel like I don't know where to go with something, then I use art as my outlet to give me peace. I may not do anything with that art, but it's for me to heal and to not feel, like when you hear a boat and there's a storm and you're in the middle of the storm, this is my way of anchoring.
Because it's, especially in those times of crisis, there is a lot of drama. Yeah. Many people are living in fear. They might lose their jobs, and there's so much out of their control. Has nothing to do with their performance. They can be great performers,
sure, and
still there is stuff outside their control. For you found art as your outlet to deal with stuff that you can't control directly, but to help you navigate through this.
Indeed.
What would be other ways for people, maybe, if not art or this kind of art? What can people do, in this times?
I think it's about doing something that you enjoy and that feeds your soul. And we all have those things, but not everybody realizes that they have those things.
How can they find it?
Well, it's the same kind of question when people ask, how can I find what my purpose is? It's not about one thing at one point at a time. It's about what gives you the greatest sense of pleasure when you're doing it right now. And some people don't remember that.
Time of, track of time.
Things that what I call being in flow. When I would go down to the studio, sometimes I have that with writing too, it was almost like a meditation, you know? All the external circumstances, they were gone. And I was just in flow. I get the chills now. To me, that when I get the chills, it's kind of like my intuition saying that something is right, that it makes sense, that, well, and I would do that, and we all have these things that we really enjoy doing. And when you're in, well, a bad spot with your career or other parts of your life, if you just spend time on some of those things that you enjoy doing the most, that will get you through. You don't have to change careers, you don't have to get divorced, but you do need to spend time feeding your soul. And if you don't know what those things are, go back to time as a child when you loved doing things. In a way, what I think it's all about is seeing life through the child's eyes. That awe that we had when we were a child, we can have that now.
Sense of wondering and curiosity.
Exactly. When you're curious and when you're challenging yourself and you're exploring, you have fun doing it, then you are fulfilling your purpose and you're working on your purpose. And it may be one thing at one time. 10 years ago, if you asked me what my purpose was, I would say to help others find fulfillment, to help other people find their purpose. And I think that might have been what enabled me to show you that you love coaching, and
it's one of the parts of it.
It felt right, and you went through that whole traject, and now you're doing coaching with a lot of other stuff. So
it's the end.
It's
not
the end.
Or.
Exactly. And I do know that there have been times where I've taken a lot of time off to do the or, and that is like looking at a blank canvas. And that has stopped me from actually enjoying that gift of having the period of time. So it's stopped me because I've been thinking this is where I want to go, that end result, and yet I don't enjoy the journey because I've put too much pressure on myself. But if you just take small steps of enabling yourself to do more of the things you enjoy doing, then your life will be much more fulfilled. So this is the costume for a piece that we'll also be doing in 2 days by Rogier van der Weijden. He was Flemish painter, and this is the portrait of a lady. And we will have Ran Zhang, Chinese artist who's here in the Netherlands studying at the Rijksacademie. She will be the lady, and often we like to work with people who are artists or theater to really get the pose of the artist Ron, the original work. Ron has worked with us before, as well as with Frederique in Rembrandt's Jewish Bride. She's also been Vermeer's Girl with the Pearl Earring, and well, we enjoy working with both Ron and Frederique a lot.
I like this notion of expanding our self-creation. So, and instead of or.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that means that, you know, it will take even more energy out of us, because we need to do more, and oh my God, what's going to happen? Because it doesn't mean that you need to spend the same amount of time on everything, or in different times you will spend more on this or another. What's your view on this?
I agree with you. Just like when you water plants, some plants, they need to have a lot of water. They need a lot of time, a lot of care. Some plants, if you put too much water in them, they will die. So you need to have some kind of balance that suits you between what you're spending your time on, what's giving you energy. Some projects will take more time over a longer period of time. Sometimes it's just about spending 1 to 2 hours a week on it, but nurturing that week after week after week. So it's not the amount of time you spend on something, but it's about the energy that it gives you when you do it.
Great. And another thing that just pops into my mind, you know, many people are stopped, say, oh my God, but actually I'm not trained in doing this, or I don't have a talent. How can I become something if I'm not trained, or I don't know. And actually, going back to you, you are a self-taught artist. You have not followed the regular journey of going to art school, but this somehow didn't stop you to end up in the Sunday Times magazine with the top artists, with your with one of your works published in there. So that has been a journey.
Well, I feel it's a self-limiting belief to say you have to be taught something by an institution to be able to do it.
Okay.
So I don't adhere to that belief, but what I do adhere to is getting people around me who...
Support system.
A support system. They know what they're doing, they have the talent, the professional training, and they enable me to create my vision. So I have, in the latest series, I work with a partner. He has been to photography school. He is wonderful with lighting, things that I wouldn't dream of being able to do myself, and I wouldn't want to do myself because it's a lot more fun to work with a team of people.
So you know also what you don't want to do, at least at this moment.
Exactly, and that's half of it. To know what you want to do and to follow that is also about saying, I make a conscious choice that I don't do this, or I do less of this so I can do more of this. I think that's an important lesson to learn. Yeah.
And what was your mindset when you just went into the art? You didn't have any...
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't have a mindset. I have to do it. I have to do it to live. It's like oxygen. Sometimes the art is about writing, sometimes it's photography, sometimes it's painting, but it all is, for me, a form of self-expression and like a communication with my soul. If you ask me what I am, I might say I'm a storyteller at the end of the day. Sometimes I'm telling my own story, sometimes I'm picking up on the currents, what's going on in society. I'm trying to tell society's story, maybe holding up a mirror. Sometimes when I'm coaching, I'm giving a mirror back to the other person of what the story is they want to tell, who they really want to be, and by saying it back to them, enabling them to be more of that. So, yeah, I don't know how to answer it. I think it's a feeling level. It's feeling
for you, yeah.
That there's something that would be missing in your life, and you wouldn't be who you are if you didn't do it.
Do you create a vision for yourself before you start this? I mean,
it depends.
Or you just go?
It depends on what it is. Let's just say this. Some of it is just going because you have to do it, because you're passionate about it and you feel like some part of you would be dead or not fully alive if you're not doing it. And once you've committed to that, then you can have...
So you commit.
Yeah, it is about commitment. It's about daring to reach for your dreams, to not say no. There's this wonderful quote that I think I've probably told you before by Goethe, and I can read it later, but when you dare to commit to your dreams, it's basically the universe collaborates to enable it to happen.
And after you commit, what happens?
Yeah, magic. Boldness, you take all sorts of risks that you might not take otherwise, because you believe in yourself, you believe that you can achieve it, even if you don't know how, and you just
and it's
go
not
for it.
It's important at the beginning, actually, to know how.
No.
You just take the first step and things unfold.
Yeah.
But the commitment is very, very important.
Absolutely. If you don't commit, then all that magic will not happen.
We live in a society where there is so much stimuli around us, you know, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. We don't know where to place our attention. And actually, we both have children. Both of your children are teenagers. I have one teenager, the other two are growing their way up to it. And I go to school and I see so many kids diagnosed with dyslexia or ADD or ADHD, and I hear the mothers or parents saying, yeah, my kid is dyslexic, or I'm dyslexic, or I'm this, I'm that. They link these conditions to their identity, and people are put in a box. Oh, you have this, you are this, so you can't do other stuff.
Well,
and I see also adults,
yeah.
And I know about you that you were diagnosed about 10 years ago or something with ADD, attention deficit disorder.
Correct.
And somehow this hasn't stopped you to be the person you are, but how does it work for you?
Well, it allows me to have a lot of duality and not to worry about that. It feels natural to me. It allows me to do a lot of different projects. It allows me, like I said, to focus very intensely. I love doing some of the research for the work I'm doing. I can work on the most minute detail of a piece and make sure, for example, that the fingers are the right place, or that the eyes are correct, or change an image with eyes on one image to eyes on another. All these things are very, very difficult, but if I didn't have that attention to the detail and that what people call overfocus, probably I couldn't do it. So, you know, you can say, oh, she's got that, and you can push it away, or you can embrace it. And I choose to embrace it because it is part of me, and it allows me to do some amazing things that without it I couldn't do. So then I say, if your child, or if you have ADD or something else, find what's good in it. Don't focus on what's negative, because you will attract more of that. Focus on what it allows you to do, and at the same time, the things that are stopping you from doing what you want to do, find coping mechanisms to do that. I think I mentioned before that one of my coping mechanisms growing up, not knowing I had ADD but struggling sometimes, was to write down notes constantly. So when I'm reading a text in a book, I'm always highlighting it, and then when I go back to it, I have to write it down. Not type it into the computer, but I have to physically write it down. Exactly.
You get it into your system.
And then once I've done that, then I can put it on the computer. But I actually enjoy that process. It is a longer process than what maybe takes other people to learn, but yeah, it enables me to still get good grades while having this.
Yeah, because seriously, I think there are lots of people that are not diagnosed and they have an attention condition, or if not, that we are so overly stimulated by the external world that sometimes is too much for us. And how do you deal with
sometimes I take myself out of the external world. Sometimes I am just not going out and meeting up with friends, not getting onto the computer for an entire weekend. And I'm like put myself almost in a womb-like environment, that I need downtime, and I need to just focus on kind of being there, being with my family, doing all the kinds of stuff that if we didn't have all this electronics, that we wouldn't be doing them anyway. Because I find sometimes even watching TV can be too much stimulus. Behind the computer, checking the BlackBerry, you know, I can go a whole weekend without, even though I see that I'm getting more things, without looking at it, because if I have to attend to it all the time, it makes me nervous.
Yeah, on one hand, all these technologies help us to communicate and to get more things done. On the other hand, it just rips out the intimacy. We have the kids. You know, from our kids, I go to school, they are all the time on their telephone, and they don't connect to each other. They don't connect to each other, and this is a big danger of, you know, intimacy between people, I think. It's good to, at some point, just put them aside and get connected with yourself and with the ones that are important to you. You met your husband during MBA, during the financial analysis course or something, and 21 years ago?
Yes.
What's the role of your husband in your life?
He helps me to ground. I have sometimes so many ideas that are coming up, and I can flit from one thing to another, and I'm enjoying it, but sometimes I'm in overdrive and I don't realize it. So as I talked about with coaching, I'm holding up a mirror for other people. He's holding up the mirror for me. And when I don't know my boundaries, he's saying, okay, now I think it's time to have a down moment, because he's very good at just, let's say, being and enjoying life and not having too much stimulus. I'm the opposite. I'm good at having too much stimulus. So he helps me to learn to say no.
And you know, you've been 21 years together. And how is he grounding you, actually?
I think his presence, his presence. I mean, when we first got together, that first weekend that we spent time together was actually during Mardi Gras, our carnival in New Orleans in '91, and we walked, let's say, from one parade to where our car was, and we didn't talk the whole time, just held hands and walked. And just to be able to be in someone's company and enjoy solitude and yet togetherness, I think that's the most beautiful gift that you can have. And so that's what he enables me to do, that, to feel that peace that maybe I wouldn't feel otherwise with my busyness.
Do you feel safe with your husband?
Absolutely.
In his presence?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
even when he's not around, I feel safe knowing that he's going to be around then soon, you know, that we're going to see each other and that evening or whatever.
You know, we are successful women, I would say, you know, from many, using different standards. And how important do you think it's actually safe for women, this ability to feel safe with their men?
I think it's very important because...
Even if they are very successful and in their 40s, 50s, whatever.
I think it's part of feeling fulfilled and feeling like you can be who you are, because you don't have to put on a mask. So for me, feeling safe with my husband is about the fact that he is embracing who I am and helping me to be more of who I am, not taking it away. And
this doesn't mean that they need to be 24/7 with us, right?
I wouldn't want anybody to be with me 24/7, no.
So what is it, what do we need? What do the women need?
Yeah, I think someone who compliments them, and I don't think it's what women need, huh? I think it's what people need is to be with someone who is a friend and more, who shares values and who enables you to be who you are, who together you kind of hold one another up in a safe cocoon environment.
And how do you keep the sparkling after 20 plus years, the romance?
Just enjoying one another's company and spending time together and making sure that you have that time together, that it's as important as your other projects, as your work, as your children, that too is number one on your list. Yeah.
Number one of your list.
Yeah.
What is art to you?
For me, art is about creative self-expression and storytelling. Whether I weave my tale with words, on canvas, mixed media, or through the lens, I'm always telling a story. An observer of the world around me, art allows me to respond to what I'm taking in.
I'm often in Frankfurt for my executive coaching business to a major financial institution. I know you go also to Frankfurt, not so regularly, but you're there. And it's just a couple of months ago you were in there at the book fair.
Yeah.
And I know there is a writer, a German writer, Goethe, that you really love.
Indeed.
And speaking about commitment,
Yes.
because we wake up very early to have our day trips to Frankfurt, we know that, so we are really committed for what we are doing. But there is a quote of Goethe that you really love. Would you like to share with us?
I would love to. This is, I think, my favorite quote of all. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, that ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issue from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.
I'm committed to find excellence and greatness and bring this to you. Elizabeth, it has been a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you too, my dear.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.